Guess I should have reset that before I started it. I don't know how to reset it. You get 2 introductions.
You're listening to the Bible Thumping Wingnut Podcast, the podcast that's safe for the whole family.
Unless your family contains professing atheists.
You're watching us live on YouTube as we record a podcast. This is episode 303 of the Bible Thumping Wingnut Podcast. Len Pettis is joining me, as you can see. And let me see. I got to play that introduction again. Actually, no, I won't. I'll just add it. I'll just add it when I edit the audio. So YouTube, this is unedited. How do you like it? We'll be monitoring the chat during this podcast. We have two topics, but we'll be about 45 minutes maybe. And so we'll just get right into it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bible Thumping Wingnut Podcast. This is episode number 303. Today's date is April 29th when we record this, and this is dropping in the first Monday in May. I don't know what that is. May 4th, May 5th. And Len is pointing at me. Oh, no, Len is talking to his family. Len Pettis is here with me today. Glad to have him with me. We've got a couple topics we're going to hit today. One I'm bringing to the table and the other he's bringing to the table. This podcast is one of many podcasts. Go to BibleThumpingWingnut.com to check out all the other podcasts that are part of the Bible Thumping Wingnut Network. Len Pettis' Grappling with Theology is there. We even have a sermon that drops every Sunday morning for you. Not so that you don't have to go to church, but so that it can help prepare your heart as you get ready to go to your local church assembly. That drops every Sunday morning in the early hours. And we have other podcasts as well, the Polemics Report, and a bunch of others. You need to check them out. You need to go check them out. And I'm trying to remember all of them, but trying at the same time not to forget to mention the Shine as Lights Kids Cast, which is coming out. That's something new and exciting for Bible Thumping Wingnut Network. We never had a kids podcast, and that's coming out audio and video. The Kids Cast, that's going to be coming out in a couple weeks. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. If you'd like to support Bible Thumping Wingnut, go to BibleThumpingWingnut.com and click on Support Our Ministry. And if you do so via Patreon for $5 or more, and stipulation upon stipulation, you live in the United States of America, $5 or more, I will send you a book called Why We Are Protestant, as well as an official Bible Thumping Wingnut t-shirt. God exists, he has spoken, the one and only original God exists, he has spoken t-shirt designed by Wrath and Grace. And that brings up the other thing I need to say right here in the opening. wrathandgrace.com, Wrath and Grace podcast. I reposted a great interview that I did with Pastor Luke Walker this week. You can catch that kind of a best of podcast interview that I reposted. Great time talking to Pastor Luke. He's part of Wrath and Grace Radio. Go to Wrath and Grace. Click on their Wrath and Grace Radio to get their podcast episodes. You can get excellent Christian clothing there as well. And they have a conference that's coming up. We're going to be promoting that in the not too far distant future. Len Pettis, Grappling with Theology. Sir, how you doing, man?
I am well. I'm upset today, to be honest with you. Today is not a good day for me.
Oh, why?
Well, I'm bothered about one of the topics we're going to talk about. It's been weighing heavy on my heart.
All right.
So
yeah. You're playing the guy who used to the co-host with Adam Staub. What was his name? AJ. How you doing today, AJ? I'm ready to talk about the topic. That's you today.
No, I'm I'm just being honest, man. You asked me how I'm doing, and yeah, this has been weighing on me for a while. If you follow my Twitter feed, you know that. So,
well, I check Twitter every now and then, and I saw that you tweeted something about something. And Len says he's bringing a topic to the table here. I am as well. We'll dive into his first. Now, I must admit, though, I have no idea what you're talking about because I'm not following it. I'm not following the news. I saw one of your tweets. I followed it, and it looked like I clicked on something, and it looked like there was a little boy or something, an ill child.
yes.
So speak to me as if you're speaking to some so that you can educate our audience, because it's possible that they're as ignorant as I am. So I know nothing.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the full timeline of the case here. What I'm talking about here is Alfie Evans. He is a 2-year-old little boy who I think just passed away either this morning or yesterday. Yeah, April 28th, he passed away because a death panel decided it. Let's just call it exactly what it is. Okay, the thing that liberals promise will never happen with socialized medicine, that being a death panel, is exactly what little Alfie Evans and his family faced, and he was denied life-saving medical treatment, and in fact, he was killed. So, in my opinion, I don't see any way any reasonable human being can look at it differently than to say that this little boy was murdered by a government bureaucracy and medical system designed to help the privileged and destroy the life of the underprivileged. Just plain and simple. So let me go through the timeline of events here. Like I said,
How do you spell the name?
Alfie Evans, just like it sounds, Evans.
Okay.
So he was born May 9th of 2016 to Tom and Kate Evans, who were at that time in their early 20s. And in December of 2016, Alfie was taken to Elder Hay Children's Hospital after suffering seizures. Okay. December 11th, 2017, hospital bosses say they are I don't know how to say this word, liaising directly with the family after disagreements over treatment. Alfie's parents say the hospital has applied for the High Court to remove parental rights and withdraw ventilation. So,
who filed for that?
The caregiving doctor.
Okay.
The hospital. So here's the thing: is that I don't think the timeline gets into this, but basically this child had a seizure, and it was shown that he had only about 30% brain function for what he should have, and nobody knew why. Nobody knew what as far as I know, there was only educated guesses in terms of what was afflicting him. So they wanted to remove parental rights and withdraw ventilation. This is the hospital, which in the UK is, of course, offering socialized health care. In other words, the parents weren't paying for the child's health care, the government was. So be careful what you ask the government to do for you. All right, December 19th, a High Court judge, Justice Hayden, begins to oversee the case at a public hearing in the Family Division of the High Court in London. The hospital says continuing life support treatment would not be in Alfie's best interest, but his parents disagree, and they say they want to fly him to Italy for treatment. Now, what the timeline doesn't, this is just purely timeline, so there's some facts in the middle here. Italy invited the family, come over here. Our doctors will give him the best care possible. We will do our best to figure out what's wrong with him and keep him alive. Okay. So they weren't just like, hey, well, if the UK won't let it, we'll go to Italy and see if they will help us. No, Italy wanted Alfie. They invited him. Okay, so fast forward from December 19th to the 1st of February 2018, and a hearing begins at the High Court in Liverpool, in which lawyers acting for the hospital claim further treatment for Alfie is unkind and inhumane. Medical treatment. Who's deciding this? A High Court in Liverpool. Lawyers acting on behalf of the hospital. All right. So, someone who is not Alfie's parents. As I'm reading this, what comes to mind here is, where's the pro-choice people? Where is Alfie's parents' choice in this? It's completely removed from them, isn't it?
Right.
February. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to fly through this because I want to get to the discussion on it. The 2nd of February, one of Alfie's doctors tells the judge there is no hope for the youngster who is in a semi-vegetative state from a degenerative neurological condition doctors have not been able to definitively identify. Okay, so he's in a partially vegetative state. And on February 5th, Tom Evans, the dad, tells the court that Alfie looks me in the eyes and wants his help. So he says that his child makes eye contact with him as if to be pleading with him for help. And as a dad, I know without my children telling me when they want my help. And Tim, as a dad, you probably know that look in your children's.
Yeah, I do.
I'm sorry to get.
That's all right. It's all right. Just imagine, you've been studying this and following it long enough. You put yourself in the parents' shoes. You're totally identifying with the parents and imagining yourself in that situation.
Dude, I think any parent, like, you hear about anything happening to a young child and you immediately, or at least I do, I immediately personalize it, whether it's like a car accident and the child ends up paralyzed or dead or something, and immediately you personalize and like, I can't imagine going through this. I can't imagine it,
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is as much anger as sadness. So I don't know. Scripture tells us to weep with those who weep. I'm sure the parents have wept plenty of tears over this. So, okay. So back to the timeline. February 20th, Hayden rules in favor. And Hayden is the judge. He rules in favor of the hospital.
Whose first name is what?
Judge.
Oh, okay. I thought
it doesn't.
No,
say.
It says Mr. Justice. I thought his first name was Justice. Mr. Justice Hayden.
Okay, it may be.
Maybe that's just the way they're phrasing it in the UK.
Yeah, they address the way they address their. It's like saying Your Honor, maybe Justice. I don't know. Although we'd say that of our high court officials, Justice Kennedy, Justice Scalia, etc. So
we don't say Mr. Justice.
Right.
Maybe I'm just in the wrong circles.
Maybe that is the way you address the high court. And but anyhow, so Judge Hayden rules in favor of the hospital, saying he accepts the medical evidence which shows further treatment is futile. March 1st, 3 court of appeal judges begin analyzing the case after Alfie's parents mount a challenge of the high court ruling. The family asks for the appeal hearing to be adjourned for a few weeks so they can discuss the ruling with lawyers, but the judges refuse. So they're just like, hey, give us some time. Let's not, like, what is the hurry to kill this child? What's the hurry? I mean, they're literally trying to expedite the death of this child. They're like, hey, let's pump the brakes on this, slow this down. So the Court of Appeals upholds Judge Hayden's decision on March 6th. On March 8th, Alfie's parents asked for the case to be considered by the Supreme Court justices. And on March 20th, the Supreme Court justices decide the case is not worth arguing and refuse to give the couple permission to mount another appeal. Can you see why this is so frustrating?
Yeah.
March 28th, Judges at the European Court of Human Rights reject a bid from Evans and James for them to examine issues relating to Alfie's future, saying they find no appearance of any human rights violation. So they're appealing to a human rights council, and they said, no, we don't see any. I mean, think of America. What is America is founded on the people's basic rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And right here, they're saying, in the pursuit of life, they're saying we find no human rights violation. And interesting. So Judge Hayden on April 11th endorses an end-of-life care plan for Alfie drawn up by not his parents, not family, no one who shares his DNA, but specialists. What makes them specialists? I'm sure a piece of paper given from a university and a court. So April 12th, protesters, and this is where things really started to come into the forefront of the media, is probably here in early April. Let's see. Protesters begin gathering outside Alder Hey Hospital as Alfie's father insists he has the right to take him home. And on April 16th, Alfie's parents argue that he is being wrongly detained at Alder Hey and make a habeas corpus application. Just so anyone knows, habeas corpus, I looked this up just so we could define this. Habeas corpus is a writ that states that a person cannot be kept in prison unless they have been first brought before a court of law, which decides whether it's legal for them to be kept in prison. So they're basically throwing a Hail Mary here, like he is being kept against our will. That's basically what they're saying, is that
so if they wanted to take their kid anywhere to get treatment anywhere else in the world,
was not allowed. That child was going to die in that hospital because of the court's rulings, because of this Justice Hayden's ruling, and the failure and the refusal of the high courts and human rights councils to stand for Alfie Evans. Okay. So the habeas corpus thing fails. On April 17th, Alfie's parents asked the Supreme Court Justice to consider their case for a second time. And on the 18th, Tom Evans flies to Rome and meets Pope Francis. On April 20th, the Supreme Court rules against Alfie's parents for a second time, refusing them permission to appeal against the decision. The parents make an application to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg to take Alfie to Rome for treatment. Again, Rome is saying, bring him to us. We will help him. We have specialists. You know, they're basically, maybe it's hopeless. Maybe there really was no hope for Alfie, but is that for a court to decide? That's the question. Who gets to decide in this matter?
Is it for the court? Is it for the doctors? Is it for the parents? Is it for God?
Yep. And that's the thing, right? Is we know who numbers the days. So 23rd of April, the European Court of Human Rights refuses the application. Alfie is granted Italian citizenship. So basically what Italy is hoping is that, and they tried this with Charlie Gard, by the way, who this was less than a year ago, almost an identical situation, a court deciding the case of Charlie Gard that he gets to die. He gets to die because reasons, basically. Death with dignity, that's what it looks like. So Alfie is granted Italian citizenship. The Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the Italian government hopes that in this way, being an Italian citizen will enable the immediately transfer of the baby to Italy. A high court judge dismisses new submissions made in private by the lawyers for Alfie's parents via telephone. At around 9 p.m., life support is withdrawn by doctors at Alder Hayden Hospital, according to Tom Evans. He says in a Facebook post that his son has been breathing unaided since 9:17 p.m. So they thought on April 23rd, when they removed life support, he would shut down and die within minutes. This is April 23rd. What's today? He died on the 28th, so he lived a full 5 days.
Right.
April 25th, Alfie's parents fail in an 11th hour attempt to persuade judges to let them move their terminally ill son to a hospital abroad. On the 26th, Alfie's parents pledged to work alongside doctors to give the boys the dignity and comfort he needs, quote unquote. Now, on the 26th of April, there's some context that needs to be given to this. The British government and the hospitals basically cornered Alfie's parents and told him, if you expect us to do anything, you better stop speaking against our healthcare system. Like literally
bribery,
holding him hostage. If you think we're going to help you at all, you better stop speaking against our system, because you keep it up like this and we'll put a knife in his head ourselves, like a bunch of abortionists or something. And so the father wrote this letter basically asking all the protesters to stand down. What it was a hostage letter. It was a hostage letter. It's like if somebody's held hostage and they send a letter out to the media, I'm being treated well, I'm being fed, I sympathize with their cause. And maybe we should look up the letter, maybe not. I think if you just Google it, it'll be fine and you'll come up with it. And I think you'll see what I see. It was a hostage letter. And then on April 28th, the 23-month-old dies at 2:30 a.m. His parents say on Facebook, "Our baby boy grew his wings tonight." So here's my frustration. Where is the American left on here? Where are these anti-gun people who say we have got to save the lives of children? Where were these people for Alfie? Where was Jimmy Kimmel, who trotted his ill son out in front of his audience, crying crocodile tears, saying that his child was the reason we need Obamacare? Where are his tears for Alfie?
Yeah,
I guess healthcare only matters when it comes to their kids. I mean, that's the great lie of the liberal left, is that this is about the kids. And it's not. It's not about kids, and it's not about choice, because these parents weren't given a choice. Alfie wasn't given a choice, and a government murdered a child. Point blank. Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I could argue their point, but I could argue the finances of it, the likelihood of recovery. Not that I agree with it, but I could argue their point, having no knowledge of the case at all, other than what you've just told me. From a healthcare system, I can argue against pouring all the money into it with my cold heart, right? That money would be better spent in other ways in our health system, rather than spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this child. What's that?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So anyway, I could argue that point to a point. Like imagine, like, it's not my position, but yeah, I could imagine it, right? But I can't argue any point that would say, no, you can't take this individual away from us. You can't take him out of our care system and let him be treated or pass in another country. What is the reasoning for that? And we have a listener who's commenting, who lives in the UK, who doesn't know. He says, he's been following the story, but he says he's not sure why they wouldn't have let him go. It's legal stuff. It's behind closed doors here. I mean, the public apparently isn't even being told.
No. Well, we could postulate, we could guess that. Imagine you send this child to Italy and they cure the child, or at least save his life and restore him to maybe 50% of the life that a normal child would have had. As in, maybe he's stricken in some way where he has to, like similar to having like cerebral palsy, where you have full brain function, but parts of your body don't work, similar to like Justin Peters or something. Or maybe they restore him to full health. What does that say then about the UK's healthcare system, who didn't know what to do and were going to let him die? You can't have that. You
Right.
cannot have this. You cannot have someone looking bad. Even look, we will kill somebody before we let them make us look bad.
Not good.
What else could it be? I mean, is that, and what I think is that an irrational thought on my part? Do you think?
No.
It's frustrating. And here's the great takeaway we need here in America is we're only 5 to 10 years behind what we would call modernized Europe in terms of where we go socially. Okay.
Is that it, you think?
Yeah.
That far behind?
Yeah. I mean, if we just look historically, we're really only 5 to 10 years behind them on things like this. So is this coming to America? You know, what's good? I mean, look, we see in California, Bibles and Bibles are being banned. Private Bible studies are being, people are being fined for having private Bible studies in their home because they don't have the proper permits to do such thing on their own property. How much longer do you have before your child is no longer your own, Tim? How much longer do we have as a society that's going to this isn't going to affect guys like you and I. By the time this comes to our shores, my children, your children are grown, my children will most likely be grown and out of my care, but you have grandkids.
They do.
I have, Lord willing, I'll be a grandfather someday. It can wait a few years, but not too soon. But, this is something that's going to affect our children's generation unless somebody, and here's what drives me crazy, dude. I've been following, and my wife makes a good point. She's like, the media controls what we think. So, of course, you're not going to see if there was some Republican lawmaker on Capitol Hill that was making speeches and pleading for this child's life, maybe you'd see a little snippet of it, or it'd be a third-page story or something. But look, on social media, I am seeing utter silence from both sides of the aisle on this, and I just can't. I'm sitting here like nobody is standing for this child. Nobody stood for Alfie. Where was the church?
Did you say in your timeline that he went to meet the Pope? The father did?
Went to meet the Pope on, I believe it was April 20th.
April 18th.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's just bad. A lot of crazy stuff happens over there.
Anyone who is against... I don't want to trivialize this and say, or I don't want to bring in the politics as a means to trivialize this, because a lot of issues are made political that should not be. But this should absolutely be front and center on any discussion on socialist nationalized healthcare. Well, how can you guarantee me, Nancy Pelosi, that my child isn't going to be the next Alfie Evans? What safeguards are going to be in place when something happens to anybody's child? Because I'll tell you what, if this was one of the royals, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
You think this would happen to Prince Harry's child?
No. No.
You think this would have happened to Jimmy Kimmel's child?
No. No.
Forget about it, dude. It's classism, and it's the death panels that I guess the extreme right has been warning about for nationalized and socialized healthcare for years. No, that'll never happen. And of course, that was in the context of the elderly, Tim. The death panel thing was always in the context of the elderly. We're talking about a toddler. And you see like pictures, and you see stories on the internet of, 2 nights ago, they basically starved this child to death. They denied him water and food and oxygen. This is a very painful way to die, by the way. Just look up death by, dehydration. It's a very painful way to die.
You can see why the world, the non-believers wouldn't have a problem with it. It's survival of the fittest. Thank you, Peter. Even though you deleted your comment. Somebody made a comment on YouTube and then deleted it. But they were pointing out survival of the fittest. I mean, not worth saving.
Yeah.
I'm not up on the letting old people pass away or the treatment in the UK, but that has to go side by side right with this.
Yes.
I mean, when does it become just not worth it anymore to medicate and help sustain elderly folks who aren't contributing to the well-being of society?
Well, but the thing is that because we're not evolved apes, because we do this because we recognize innately, Tim, that being made in the image of God gives us a level of dignity. Life is valuable. People are valuable. We don't trivialize them by their age or mental capabilities and faculties. Okay? We're talking about an image bearer of God, regardless of age, regardless of mental capabilities and faculties. They are worth saving. They just are. And by the way, the atheist has absolutely no account for human dignity. You can't kill them all. Kill them all. Kill all the babies. We joke about, atheists eat babies. Yeah. You know who's utterly silent about this?
I know who. This guy right here, right behind me, he hasn't said a word.
Yep.
For those of you who can't see the
brick,
the
Sid
video
back there.
Sid Durblock is in the studio today.
Yeah, it's so incredibly frustrating, and the church needs to stand because abortion is going beyond the womb. You look at Iceland, which is utterly, and by the way, they're applauded on the global stage for having wiped out Down syndrome on their little island. And you know how they've done it? Abortion. Abortion. And you know that if we had listened to doctors when we were pregnant with Chloe, they said that she had more than an 85% chance of having Down syndrome because of the blood tests and they did an amnio where they take amniotic fluid and test it. Well, and we said, well, what difference is that? So, well, it gives you a decision to make. And we weren't even Christians. And we're like, there's no decision to be made here. What are you talking about? Ben Shapiro did the speech for the what is it when a graduation ceremony?
Commencement.
He spoke at the commencement of Liberty University, and he was talking about that on his show. And I guess the university president's son has Down syndrome, and he gave the prayer, and he thanked God for his Down syndrome that he could speak.
Wow.
Issue of aborting children who have Down syndrome. And by the way, those tests are, I don't know, it may have changed over the last 15 years, but back then those tests came up like 80 some percent false positives. Chloe doesn't have Down syndrome. So it's crazy. It's just crazy to me, dude. Like I'm apoplectic. I just have no words. I've just been so emotional over the whole thing. But it needs to be talked about. The church needs to have a very, for those who say that Christians shouldn't have a voice in politics, this is why we need a voice. And I'm not saying like we become all post-millennial theonomic reconstructionist and try to take over America one county at a time, but the gospel needs to be preached into these issues. If this isn't a gospel issue, nothing is. Nothing is. I've done all the talking, Tim. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Let's trade it.
So what about the Christians who have the eschatology that things are just going to get worse and worse and worse, and this is just a sign of the times? And
well, I mean, are they wrong? That's a question. Are they wrong? I mean, I kind of tend to agree with a pessimistic amillennial view but there's ebbs and flows, and we know human depravity knows no end. human depravity is boundless. And so as Christians, we shouldn't necessarily be surprised by this. Like, it shouldn't surprise us that governments kill their own people. But that doesn't mean we trivialize it. You know, we shouldn't trivialize this and say, yeah, well, you know what? Maranatha. I mean, even though I say that from the depths of my soul, I say Maranatha. Like, you know, if for no other, I don't even know what to say about it, Tim. Honestly, it's like, whatever your eschatological view is, like, if you have the gospel, be a voice in these issues. Be a voice in these issues. You know,
right?
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if the answer is going and standing in front of abortion mills with signs. I don't know if it means going to town board meetings and preaching the gospel. You know, voting, of course, vote. But you know, Trump was pretty vocal on the Charlie Gard issue. He was dead silent on this issue. Dead silent.
I don't even remember the Charlie Gard thing. What was that?
Same thing. Same situation.
In the UK also?
Yeah, also in the UK. And President Trump was going to, I think President Trump, I think he was running, actually. I think this might have been during the campaign. But Trump offered to take his jet over and fly Charlie Gard back to the U.S. for treatment. You know,
oh, wow.
So that might have been candidate Trump, which would tell us something about the motivation behind why he was vocal then and why he was dead silent now. I could be wrong on my timeline there, but I don't know. I'm willing to be corrected. BibleThumpingWingNut@gmail.com if I'm wrong.
Well, I tell you what, Len, this episode I need to bump it up and release it tomorrow because it's pertinent to what's going on right now. And last week's episode that we recorded on Christian ethics and my article about Polycarp appearing in heaven to Stephen Powell, I'll push that back a week. So we've been going about 35 minutes now. We just continue the discussion. We got to start a Atheist Experience in about 35 minutes from now. So we've got some time to discuss some of the things that are going on in your mind. And as you point,
I hope they take calls on this issue tonight. I really hope some Christians call and challenge them on this issue.
Well, it's like any issue that comes up that's a moral issue, we could throw in the face of the atheist.
That's true.
I don't know that this is anything special about that.
Yeah. Overall, you're right.
For those of you that this is the Bible Thumping Wingnut podcast that we're our audience is on the podcast feed and on Facebook. If we post this on this video on Facebook eventually, the Atheist Experience is a podcast that Len and I do on Sunday evenings, Sunday afternoons, and we start sometime between 5:30 and 8:30. Sometimes we're reviewing their content live and sometimes we're not. But a pretty epic episode last week, Len. You were like bored out of your mind. The same thing over and over again. You weren't paying attention. You were eating and just like, and then one of our old buddies went on the Atheist Experience.
Yeah, that sure it changed the tone of the program a little bit. You might say.
We're almost ready to shut it down. I downloaded that video today, Len, and I've got to just cut out the part that Josh calls for. Josh is the realistic nihilist. And
yes,
he about probably 4 years ago, he started showing up on the Bible Thumping Wingnut YouTube channel, and he's engaged with Matt Slick, Dustin Seegers, what other is Seitan Bruggencate, lots of people with the Council of Google Plus, and as an atheist, and he called the Atheist Experience and claimed to be a theist, and really took Matt Dillahunty to task with philosophy. It was just for sport, as you pointed out, Len, just for sport,
Yeah.
really.
Yep.
And at the end, Matt Dillahunty was so frustrated. All he could say was, "Well, I might not be classically trained in philosophy, but I got you to call me, so I win." And the audience, the in-studio audience, roars with victory. Like, what? How is, like,
Oh, that was frustrating also.
you came on my show, so I win.
Yep. And for anyone who asks why we don't call in,
that's
it.
So you know what? I just wish I had so much more time, because if I had time, Len, I would take the clip of Dillahunty saying, "I got you to call my show," and then show me introducing Matt Dillahunty, who called me to come on my show because he wanted to talk to Matt Slick.
Yep.
I win, Matt Dillahunty.
Yep. That's right. You're a winner.
It's so amazing how easy it is to point out the folly of atheism. If you are not a member of the Bible Thumping Wingnut Facebook group, you should be. It's where we engage with people. We do a lot of engagement on the YouTube channel, and we're starting to do more on the Facebook page as well. So if you are not a member of the Bible Thumping Wingnut Facebook group, you should be. What do you got? What you got now, Len? I see you're reading.
No, I'm not reading. Are we going to talk about the church on this episode?
No. Nope.
This one's going to stand on its own?
It's going to stand on its own. We'll save that for later.
Well, I'll tell you what. You should have heard my pastor preaching Galatians chapter 3 today. Oh, he recorded it. He had his recorder on, and I am going to insist for that audio, and we have to put it on the podcast feed. It's about from Galatians 3, of course, justification by faith alone, and everybody will appreciate that.
Well, so send it to me.
I will. I got to get it from him. I'm going to text him now.
So
I don't have my phone
future topic, and you can weigh in. You can email me at BibleThumpingWingnut@gmail.com, or you can go to the Facebook group on Facebook. That's where it is. That's why I call it Facebook group. Go there. And I asked, what makes your local church assembly great? What makes it good? What do you like about your local church? And we'll be reading your comments in a future episode, probably the next one that we record. That being said, to the people on YouTube, we're going to fire back up in about 30 minutes. About 30 minutes.
Before you sign off, can I just tell people what's happening with Grappling with Theology?
Can I say no?
You can.
No, go ahead.
No, I had my chiropractor on this week.
Oh, yeah. Did you ask him my question?
I did.
Sweet.
I was taking questions from Facebook. So, but no, I talked to my chiropractor about chiropractic care. There's seems to be no middle ground. People either love chiropractic or they think it is horse pucky.
Witchcraft. It's witchcraft.
Witchcraft, voodoo, woo-woo, etc. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting conversation. It didn't get really theological at all. But yeah, it's a really good conversation. So if you're interested in learning about chiropractic care, it's a good episode.
When does that come out?
That will be out on Tuesday. So you can check that out at BibleThumpingWingnut.com/grapplingwiththeology. And it's also available on iTunes and everywhere where fine podcasts are found.
30 minutes right here again, where we're going to be broadcasting Atheist Experience. So get your popcorn ready. Hey, Len, they've got I think they got the C team, not the A team, the B team, but the C team coming on. It should be No Matt, and no Tracy.
No viewers.
I bet you their numbers are.
They'll still have 3,000 people watching.
I bet
3,002 counting us.
I bet you their numbers will be. I bet you their numbers are up higher when Matt Dillahunty is in the house.
And I don't get that. I mean, he's no smarter than the rest of them. And that's not to say like, oh, everyone is dumb, but you know, he's the star of the show, I suppose. I guess if you watch Seinfeld and Jerry was never on it, you wouldn't watch it, you know. So.
He's the Jerry Seinfeld of atheism. There you go.
What is with these Christians?
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you appreciate what we do here and want to help the Bible Thumper, not only this podcast out, but the entire network, please consider supporting. Go to BibleThumpingWingNet.com and click on support our ministry. You can do it on Patreon. You can give a one-time gift, or you can mail a check to me at my local P.O. box. I went to my local P.O. box this week, Len, for the first time in a while, and I got 3 pieces of mail.
You did?
3.
Wow.
Yep. 3 flyers from the local grocery store. That's what I got. That's what I got in my official.
I thought you were going to say there were 3 massive checks from supporters who just love the ministry.
Nope.
Not so much.
Not so much. Not so much. So if you want to brighten up my P.O. box, go to the website and you can find it. Click on support our ministry. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching. And again, in about 25 minutes, we'll be firing up another YouTube video, and we'll be live on Facebook. See you then.